Okay, so I have some microphones to review, and it's about time that I got around to this because I've been putting it off. The first one we're gonna start with is Maono. So originally they sent me this USB microphone, the AU-PM461S. I gave them a review and they decided that they wanted to have me test another microphone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna review both of them in the same video. So let's look up and see how much this is retailing for at this precise moment. So on their website, this microphone is retailing for $44.99. That is a very cheap mic in terms of affordability. So that could be exciting. This is a USB microphone, and I've said it before, for professional use, I do not recommend USB microphones. I recommend microphones that require an interface to plug into. USB microphones have a USB port on the back end of the cord that's gonna come out of here, and it plugs directly into your computer. But I will show you how everything sounds. So first we're gonna take a look at what is included in this box for $44.99. So you have a clamp arm and a clamp. No, you have a microphone arm and a clamp for that microphone. So you're gonna stick this end here, you're gonna clamp this on the side of a desk. I use a microphone arm, but I don't like the clamps because, you know, if you have an expensive microphone or a valuable microphone, or really you don't want to be knocking any of your microphones around, but when you have a microphone on the end and this is all that's holding it on and you're moving it back and forth to get out of your way or pull it closer to you, this tends to pop off and then you have a microphone that's always at risk for falling on the ground. But I usually just buy an extension that I screwed into the wall and it's perfectly fine. It's a good fix. So you have the microphone arm, you have a clamp, you have this holder for the microphone itself. So the microphone is going to screw into here. This attaches to the arm, and then you're going to talk into it like this, blah, 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 blah. This is a very light microphone. The outer casing is plastic. The actual, filter for the microphone is metal. But overall, it feels very light. Whenever you start to get into the more expensive microphones, you'll notice the weight of them because it has higher quality material. But we'll take a look at that later. You also get a pop filter. And this is kind of a neato little pop filter. This one is metal and the more expensive ones are metal. So we'll see how this one works. I might actually, replace my own pop filter with this one. I don't know, we'll see. And then they also give you the cord to plug the microphone into your computer. So we'll see how all of that works when we get to that stage, but first, let's go ahead and see what's in the other box they sent. All right, so the other microphone that they sent me after they sent me this initial one is for professional use. Professional large diaphragm microphone set, the PM500 series. Let's see how much that one's retailing for at the moment. This one is currently retailing for $129. So it's about, what, 3 times more expensive than the first microphone that I just showed you. Maono told me that the first microphone, the AU-PM461S, is not intended for professional use. This is for recreational use, people who have hobbies, things where the quality of the microphone isn't dire. This next one that they sent me, they said is for professional use, and it says it on the box, professional. So let's see what's inside. Ooh. Much bigger. So you get another pop filter, just this one has their little mark on it, their logo on it. you get this big microphone holder compared to, they give you a much bigger microphone holder compared to the smaller one. So this one has the elastic bands here, whereas this one's elastic bands are much smaller, and that's like a shock mount. So, you know, any like jiggling or anything that it may experience, that's supposed to kind of take that on. So this one's much larger. We'll see what the microphone looks like. And here we are. Yes, this is much heavier, just in the weight of it. So this, very light, is plasticky with a teeny bit of metal on it. This has some weight to it. I'm gonna guess like 3 times heavier. I don't know. So this one is not a USB microphone. This one is meant to link up to an interface. This is a professional microphone. It's a condenser microphone, and what that means is when talking about directionality, where the microphone takes in sound from makes a big difference. This one doesn't seem to have any directionality to it. I'll check later, but it doesn't say anything like cardioid pattern or anything on the outside. So this one's a professional microphone. It has a lot of weight to it. Everything on it is metal. You can see the microphone like encased in this little thing. So far I like it much better than the other one. So we'll see how that one turns out professionally. The first thing we're gonna do is we're going to test these microphones in a non-soundproofed area to see just how it does in an environment. That's really more for the microphone that they say is not for professional use. So I can test out the recreational microphone in a non-soundproofed setting to see how it might fare for people who are streaming on Twitch or recording for YouTube or whatever the case may be. And then we'll move both of the microphones into the studio and test it in a soundproofed environment. All right, so let's hop to it. So let's see how easy this is to set up. We're gonna start with the Maono AU-PM461S. This is the microphone, like I said before, that they are gearing for recreational purposes. It should be just a quick, simple setup. There we go, that looks nice. So you can tighten it up here if you want. Some people like their microphones to hang upside down, however you want to do it. Now for the USB cord. So we have everything mounted, and then this just plugs into the bottom and then straight into your USB port. And let's see, this looks like it just clamps onto the outside of the shock mount. Bada bing, bada boom, there you go. Okay. So what we're going to do is, Audacity is a free recording software, and that's what I'm going to test this microphone on, because if you're just starting out and you're at the point where you're buying a $50 microphone set with an arm and a mount and the pop filter and all of that stuff, and you're going to bypass an interface, chances are you're going to be probably using a free recording software. So that's what we're going to use today. Okay, so this is us monitoring the microphone right now. So if you look, you can see right here, these are the levels that I'm currently recording at. Usually I try to keep that, for professional recording, I try to keep it between 9 and, I feel like 18 is good. I usually try and stick between 9 and 12, but 9 and 18 is good. So that's about where we're peaking. That's with the gain setting right down the middle. So let's see how it sounds first. Vivian Chastain is an adrenaline-addicted veteran, transitioning to civilian life in Sacramento, California. She settles into a new routine while she finishes up colleges. Okay, so you hear quite a bit of crackling in that recording. Some of that is, just the ambiance, would that be the word? Some of that is just the air in the room that you hear, but the only difference that I'm pointing out here is there's a crackling, which you don't typically get in, or you shouldn't be wanting to get. It shouldn't be normal to get in a microphone. So let's see if we can take care of that quickly. Vivian Chastain is an adrenaline-addicted veteran, transitioning to civilian life in Sacramento, California. Okay, so that sounds kind of decent, actually. For a $50 microphone, I think that I would say that's pretty solid. I would not use this the way that it's sounding so far in a professional setting, but if you're just doing streaming, or if you're going to put this in your bedroom and, I don't know, do a podcast or talk to friends or stream, or what else do people do with microphones recreationally, then so far it's sounding good. This is not a treated area, so I would say that's pretty decent. Let's play around with some plosions and see how far we can take the gain up and down and mess around with it a bit. I'm not a super fan of this being able to twist around on the holder itself. One thing you could do is wrap the cord around the arm and stabilize it a bit more, but typically you don't want this to be able to twist around, especially if you're trying to get it at a certain angle. You don't want the cord trying to move it. All right, so this is the gain turned up quite a bit. So one reason why I might turn up the gain a lot is if I'm going to whisper and speak very quietly. So we're going to do the whisper. Vivian Chastain is an adrenaline. Okay, you definitely hear a lot more room noise. But one thing that you don't hear anymore is that crackling in the back. All you hear is the room noise now. So let's take care of that room noise first. Vivian Chastain is an adrenaline-addicted veteran, transitioning to civilian life in Sacramento, California. She settles into a new routine while she finishes up college at... So I'm going to go ahead and say that it fared pretty well. We're not in a treated area, like I said. The only issue that I'm having with it at the moment is there tends to be some crackling in the microphone itself that takes care of itself when you turn up the gain. But other than that, you know, if this is your first microphone, I don't know if that's a deal breaker for you, or if there's other options that you would prefer that just don't have crackles and it doesn't have that issue. So let's move on to the professional series and see how we do with that. Actually, I won't be able to do the professional series in a non-treated area because I need my interface, which is fine because if you're using a professional microphone and you're at that level already, chances are you're going to be recording in a soundproofed area. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, so now we are in the studio. I went ahead and got everything set up on this microphone. We are back to the AU-PM461S. Yes. Good job on me for remembering that name. Okay. Okay, testing. So we are right back in the middle with the gain, and it did pretty well in a non-soundproofed area. So I'm excited to see how this microphone performs in a soundproofed area. So let's jump into it. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. All right, that sounds really good for a recreational $50 microphone. Let's see if we can mitigate just those slight pops and crackles. It's not a big deal when you have it in the airspace of your recordings, but when you hear that pop and crackle while you're speaking, that's one of the things, like, you just can't do that professionally. You're going to have clients sending that back to you all day long. So let's kind of mess around with noise reduction. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. All right, so there is zero crackle now. You can hear it a tiny bit on the end of this sentence. To be left empty-handed and alone. Just faintly you can hear that crackle, but that sounds like pretty good audio to me. Let's go ahead and mess with the gain like we did last time. We're going to turn it all the way up because I think we can handle it. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. You have a lot of plosions. Plosions are like the consonants that are overly pronounced or emphasized. So let me try to speak off center from the microphone, see if that helps, and then we'll do some editing to see if we can get rid of that background noise. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. Okay, there's definitely a high noise floor. Obviously, we have the microphone turned all the way up. Let's see if another noise reduction will help this. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. It doesn't sound terrible, but within the speaking of that file, you can still hear it sounds like a rumpling. It sounds like, white noise in the background that I can't quite scrub out. That's with the gain turned all the way up, which is unusual. You're not going to be recording with the gain all the way up anyways. But let's go ahead and see what it sounds like with the gain turned down. So maybe we'll do some yelling like we're in a video game or something. So I'm going to pull the microphone away from me. We're going to check the metering levels. This looks about right. Put your hands on your head and get on the ground. Get on the ground now. Yeah, so we can't, I don't know why it's doing that, turning the gain all the way down. It's not even all the way down. It's just turned down a lot, but it definitely distorted the file. Let me see if I can, let's see if I turn it up a bit. Now we're about 25% of the gain control and see how it sounds. Put your hands on your head and get on the ground. Get on the ground now. So that did a little bit better. I guess, you just can't push the gain too far one way or the other. It's really only functional within a smaller range than they give you. Okay, yeah, so that's really all I wanted to test on this microphone. And then at the end, we'll kind of do a full recap and see what I recommend, if I recommend them for any of the microphones. Okay, so we are moving on to the PM500 series. This is the professional microphone that they sent me to test out. So like I said, it's heavy duty. It's got some good weight to it. And I didn't even realize when I first opened the box to show you what was inside, I missed a whole second layer to the box. So they do send you a microphone cable, which, I didn't assume they were going to. When I bought my AKG microphone, it didn't come with this, so it's not just guaranteed that they will send it to you. So it's cool that they send you the microphone cord, but then they also send you this nicely weighted metal stand for it. And I gotta say, you know how I feel about the clamps with the microphone arm. It's I'm not going to use that clamp. It's not a good idea, but this is kind of cool if you have something to set it on, or if you're going to record at a desk that's much closer to your mouth. This is kind of neat. I'm going to use it today. I'm going to hold it like this, so I'm not holding the microphone and I don't have to undo my entire setup. But yeah, so that also came with the box. So I'm going to show you how to set this up. What we're going to do is we're going to put the microphone inside the shock mount first. There's screw on like this. Okay, there we go. Ooh, nice. And this one doesn't twist like their other model does. I'm liking it already. Okay. I probably should have put it on this first, but no big deal. All right, so this is a unidirectional cardioid pattern. So you want to make sure that you're speaking into the right end of the microphone. They have the little picture there for you so you can know what you're doing when you get this set up. You have it facing the right direction. And at the base of the microphone, let's see if you can see that. You see those 3 prongs? You're gonna join the female end of the cable to that end. And then the other end of the microphone is going to plug in to your audio interface. So one of the things to know about this microphone is you will need to buy an interface because it's not going to plug directly into your computer. For a professional microphone, I'm going to say you got to have an interface. I'm not a fan of the USB microphones, as you've seen in previous review videos. So you know, it's a must-have for me. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my interface. Okay, so we have the gain set. It looks like I'm going to be recording in a decent metering level with my normal gain settings on my interface. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to hold it like this from the base that they have provided that would normally go on a desk. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. Okay, it sounds decent. Let's hear it with my preset. Friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone until she finds camaraderie and care from the last person she would have thought. That sounds pretty good. For a $120 microphone that's like pretty heavy duty, you would need an interface for it, but as a beginning professional, I'm digging it. So let's see. Let's mess around with the gain a little bit and see how it does. So we've turned up the gain quite a bit. Now we're peaking at around -7 decibels, and you can already see it on my audio file. Vivian's relationships are strained to their break. All right, so on that take, I held the microphone a little bit off center from my mouth because I noticed in the first take that I did, there were a couple plosions from my mouth where it's like a p, p, b, that kind of noise. So I held it a little off center to see how it would do. We'll take off the preset and listen back. Vivian's relationships are strained to their breaking points as she continues to seek balance. She turns to her best friend for support, only to be left empty-handed and alone. I'm really liking that. I think that sounds really good. That's with no editing, no presets or anything. You can see in the audio file on this back end, those things on the line that looks fuzzy compared to something that's a little less fuzzy. None of these are like completely edited. You know, I'm feeling pretty confident that with a little bit of editing know-how, you can make that file sound really nice. I think it sounds really decent to begin with, and this is only a $120 microphone that comes with the shock mount, the cable, the little stand, your pop filter, all of that stuff. So I think it's sounding really good. Let's see how it sounds with more yelling that you might find in a video game or, you know, an anime or something like that. Put your hands on your head and get on the ground now! I feel like I can turn up the gain quite a bit, which is nice because you don't want to have to turn the gain all the way down for yelling. You want to see how the microphone is going to be able to handle that kind of volume. So let's turn up the gain a little bit. We're at 50%. Normally I'm recording about 75% of the way. Put your hands on your head and get on the ground now! Okay, that sounds pretty decent. Let's see what happens when we bring up the gain in post on the software. So not through the microphone, but on the software to bring it up to a -3 and see how it sounds. Put your hands on your head and get on the ground now! That sounds good. I like it. Okay, so now the audio that you're listening to is the audio directly from the microphone that I use on a day-to-day basis. I use an AKG C414, which runs about $1,000, and it is just the microphone that you're buying. It doesn't come with a cord or cable or anything like that. So one of the few differences between the microphone that I use every day and this professional Maono MP500 series microphone that we just took a look at is my microphone has a lot more control in terms of options. So I use mine on a unidirectional cardioid pattern, which is basically the telling the microphone where to grab the sound from. So it's only ever grabbing the sound from right in here. It doesn't really listen to anything going on out here, which is great for voiceover. But I have my options across every directional pattern that you can imagine, from omnidirectional, which is all around, all the way to a figure eight pattern. And those are good for all different types of things, a lot of them having to do with music, balancing perhaps different voices, maybe some instrumentals, things like that. So that's on the front end of it. And then also on the back end, you have control over your standing noise floor, and it's almost like a gain before you get to your interface, how much noise is going to be coming into the microphone. So that being said, you have a lot of options on the hardware itself before you even start messing with the gain. And I don't touch it very often because I only do voiceover. I don't do any music as of yet or anything like that. So it's just nice to know that I can grow with this microphone for a long way in whichever direction I decide to go with my recording needs. The Maono microphone doesn't have any of that, any of those options. This is only a condenser mic with a single cardioid pattern, which is the unidirectional cardioid pattern. And if you're just doing voiceovers, this is really all you need. You don't need to be messing around with a bunch of stuff. My AKG also has a feature built into it where if it sits for like 15 seconds or something like that, and there's a deep, consistent rumble in the background, it'll pick up on that rumble and cancel it out of your recordings. So it's a very high-tech microphone, and that is helpful. So sometimes if the paint shop behind our house is running, you can hear a faint, low rumble. I don't ever even have to worry about it with this current microphone. Would that happen with this microphone? It might, but I think that this microphone is pretty strong, and you can find workarounds in your post edit as to what you're going to do with it. Let's see, what else do I want to say? So let me bring in the other Maono microphone, and we'll talk about both of them side by side. Okay, so these were the two microphones that we looked at today. This is the professional Maono MP500 series. This is the recreational USB AU-PM461S. And there's a big difference between these two. One, the pricing. This one's going to run you about $50, and this one's going to run you about $130. On top of that, you need additional equipment to run on this one. The quality is huge in the difference between the two. So for this recreational one, it's decent if you really are comfortable that you're only going to use it recreationally. The clarity that you get with it is decent, but like you heard, there's quite a bit of crackling that you find across your recordings with it. So I would never recommend this recreational one for professional use. If you're getting it for someone who likes to stream and it's their first microphone, or if you're getting it for yourself for maybe a little bit of podcasting, if it's a hobby for you, or, things that you're not getting paid to create voiceover for, then yeah, you might as well test this one out. It's nothing incredibly special, but it's a decent USB microphone, and it is very, very helpful to have that gain knob on the front. If you're getting a microphone that's running you about $50 with no gain knob, then you definitely want to watch a review on it first. But because you have this gain knob, you have a little bit more control over how you're going to use it. With editing, it really cleaned up the files, and it was pretty impressive, especially in a non-soundproofed area. I was pretty impressed with how it did for a $50 mic that also came with other accessories in the box. What else do I want to say about it? So the types of things that I would record with this, like I said, are all recreationally based, but you can use it for about anything. Like, let's say you're going to use it for YouTube, streaming, casual podcasting, anything that you're going to use it for fun, you can use with this. In terms of directionality, Let me double check on that. I don't think I tested that, but I'm gonna guess that it picks up omnidirectional patterns. And it's an AU-PM. I keep saying MP, it's a PM. Okay, yeah, so this is a unidirectional pattern. This is what that voiceover pattern looks like, where it's getting more of the gain from directly in front of the microphone. Built-in blowout-proof sponge. Oh, I guess, and it has a built-in blowout-proof sponge. So perhaps that helped whenever, if you're going to have plosives or if you're going to yell into the microphone. I believe it did pretty well with that. Actually, no, it didn't. Whenever I came into the soundproofed area, you saw whenever I was doing, yelling as if I'm in a battle, it kind of blew out the mic quite a bit. So that being said, you have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of how you're going to use this. It does pretty well with whispering, but it doesn't do well with very loud sounds. So if you're in a very noisy area, you may have trouble if you need to speak louder or if there's going to be, loud noises in the back, but that's not an ideal recording setting anyways. So that being said, it did pick up background noise. Most of it you can edit out. If you're using this recreationally, you can edit out a decent amount without it becoming distracting. And in terms of design, I wasn't a fan of how it spun in the shock mount that it had. That's not ideal. You want it to be stable and stay where you're going to keep it. The cord that it comes with is not very long. You can't be, it's only a couple feet long, so I had to mount it very close to my computer. So that's another thing to consider. So it doesn't have a long cord. It doesn't do well with yelling, and it spins in the shock mount. But overall, I would say it's a decent microphone. It's like like a fun little toy mic that you can play around with, and it does well with spaces that aren't soundproofed. So that's all I have to say about that. Whenever it comes to their professional microphone, I was pretty impressed with this. I didn't really have any expectations of it, but for being a $130 microphone, it did pretty well. I have no complaints about it at all. Yeah. My first microphone was an Audio-Technica AT2020 that I used for several years professionally before I upgraded. And I would say if I knew about this microphone back then, I would have just gone ahead with this microphone. The AT2020 was a regular professional microphone that also needed an audio interface. So for an extra $30, I think I would have been more comfortable with this. The AT2020, if I'm remembering correctly, is an omnidirectional pattern, which means I was picking up sound from everywhere, which at times it was difficult to get a good soundproofing area because it was a bit sensitive in that aspect. But this is a unidirectional pattern, and yeah, I recommend this. I think this is a great starter microphone for professional use. And it's definitely sturdy, but you will need to get some other equipment with it, which if you're going to be trying to work professionally, you've got to make a little bit of investment on the front end. In terms of clarity, it was great. It was great in an edit. It was great in, dimming out background noise. You have all the functionality and control that you need with the interface that you're using, so it's not a big deal that you don't have any built into the hardware of the microphone. With any plosives and stuff I had, that's, something that you might deal with just about any microphone, so just offsetting it from your mouth and you basically solve that problem. And I think the design is sturdy, it's great, and it feels good in your hand. So that being said, I'm going to definitely recommend this for beginners, and you definitely have room to grow with it. So I got nothing else to say. Okay. Let me know what you guys think, and if you have any more questions, and I'll see you next time.